do her announcement.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucy, and I'm a translator interpreter. This meeting is with interpretation. So for you to be able to hear everything in this meeting, you need to select a language. If you can go to the bottom. Vamos con Michelle Bonaris. Go right ahead, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Now we'll call the roll. Commissioner Abernethy.
Pasamos la lista.
Present.
Commissioner Annang.
And 2001, so then they started paying me. So
Jessica Moya, I'm legal administrative supervisor, and I assist the Shaw city attorney.
Good evening, all. Brian Maxey, independent police auditor. Commissioners, good to see you all again. Look forward to working together.
Hi, I'm Latasha Reese, assistant city clerk.
Sandra Robles, deputy city clerk, and I support the city clerk, Mark Johnsky.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Vania de la Cuba, Deputy to Mayor Victor Gordo.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And then we have with us, in terms of city staff, we have Chief Perez, who you may have heard if you joined in time that there is an issue that he's dealing with right now. So if he's available, if you could, Chief Perez, just speak.
Here I am. Here I am. Hold on one second. Talk to you, Patrol Commander. We had an incident at Robinson Park in which we had somebody struck by gunfire. It is the third person shot in less than 24 hours. Yesterday, 2 people were shot, one in the jaw, one in the head, and today we have somebody shot in the hip over at Robinson Park, and the football and sporting events were stopped at the park, and we're moving forward with that. So the investigation is ongoing. For the council who might be listening, the deputy chief will be sending out a notification to everybody on that incident. You'll have it shortly. And for myself, I will let the commission know that I'm very happy everybody is willing to serve our community on this police commission, and I'm looking forward to the type of work plan and the overall strategy we need to really reconcile the two sides of policing that we're dealing with in terms of what we all want to see in this country, for the things we want to stop, as well as the ongoing violence and the other type of incidents we're asking our police to do. It's a terrible balance, but it requires groups like this to come together and try to find new ways of doing policing and just innovative ways to connect. So I'm looking forward to what might come out of this group and the ideas they may have in building their chemistry together. I do.
Commissioners, good to see you all again. We spent quite a bit of time together. Good to see you all. And I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. And we've asked, and the chief has graciously agreed to ensure that there is a representative from the police department attending the meetings. They won't necessarily have presentations, but they will be here to hear what's going on. There may be meetings when they give presentations, and then other times they may just be here as observers. I wanted to do a couple of logistical matters. As I introduced Ricardo, he is assisting with the technology here. I am not the biggest techie in the world, so I appreciate whenever anybody else can step in and fill in. As I mentioned before, if you could keep it on mute when you're not speaking. This meeting is being recorded. Please be aware of your background because you are on camera. And pay attention to loud noises if you're speaking, pets that may be barking. See if you could get them to calm down while you're speaking or something like that. Raise your hand on Zoom or lift your hand to get attention. You had great experience with your training in how to raise your hand from the Zoom click, so you can do that. Or you can lift your hand to get attention. And then I don't think we'll have this problem, but I did want to mention that we don't want to have anyone talking over someone else at the same time. So now I think we can turn to the mayor, Mayor Victor Gordo.
I'm sorry, Michelle, if I may interrupt real quick. I have my hand up. It looks like Commissioner King is trying to get on. She's in the chat, if someone can check.
Kinaga, okay.
Yeah.
That might be why Amanda left. Is Commissioner Kinaga?
I just wanted to make sure you knew. She's
Thank you.
trying
Reasonable accommodation that would be considered in the interactive process. And
No, K-I-N, Patty Kinaga. E. Kinaga. There you go.
Has been one of those things that
Give it a second and she'll populate this.
Okay. Thank you for that, Deputy Chief. There we go. All right, so we have Commissioner Kinaga who has joined us. Welcome.
Yeah, I've actually been on from the beginning
Oh, okay, very good.
by phone.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. So you're right on time for the mayor.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I just wanted to
be here personally to congratulate all of you for responsibility. Commissioner Matthews, Commissioner Abernethy, my appointee, Judge Argento. It's been a while. Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Lurvey, Commissioner Ford, Commissioner Florence and Annang, Commissioner Ibanez, Commissioner Serrano, and Commissioner Kinaga. This is, I've said to people that policing is, in fact, the most sensitive function of any municipality, and frankly, the most sensitive function in any local government. And you've taken on an awesome responsibility to help guide the city council, to help guide the police department as we try and strike the balance between public safety and reasonable oversight. The city council will look to you to provide guidance on our policies and procedures, to provide guidance on best practices, to provide guidance on what we can do better and how we can keep this city safer. You heard Chief Perez today say that, we've had 3 people shot and wounded in Pasadena over the last 24 hours. And that just gives you an idea of the balance that is involved with policing. I've said to people that policing is, in fact, the most sensitive role because it involves our safety in neighborhoods and parks, everywhere in every part of the city. But it also potentially involves the use of force against the very residents that we're looking to protect, residents of the city. And you have to keep that in mind. The responsibility that you are undertaking on behalf of the city council and residents of Pasadena is not a lightweight assignment. And you should keep that in mind as you are called upon to review policies and procedures. I would ask on behalf of the city council that you set aside some of your personal views, that you strive to do what's in the best interest of our police department, that you strive to do what's best interest of the residents of Pasadena, and that you strive to do what's in the best interest of public safety, not just for your own families, but for all of our families that live in Pasadena. And sometimes that's not easy to do, but as public servants, that's what we're called upon to do, to set aside what we may feel is a personal view, and certainly that personal view should inform you. That's why we're all here as public servants. And so you'll each bring a different perspective to the job. You'll each bring a different view of where we should be. But ultimately, as a body, you'll be called upon to come up with a recommendation on any given policy or procedure. And I can tell you that the city council will be looking, as will our city manager, and I want to
involved in Anthony McLean's shooting are all fired today. Given
Sir,
what
you have 1 minute left.
If you have not seen the Pasadena Black Pages article about what the police have done to cover up the murder of Anthony McLean, you all need to go and read that tonight. That should be your first recommendation. The second recommendation should be that John Perez should resign immediately as police chief for allowing rampant corruption under his watch and refusing, even though he had the knowledge of this witness tampering, refusing to fire the officers that were responsible for it. If you all are really about getting justice, if you're really about holding the police accountable, this is what this commission was created to do, which is why
your time is up.
Ask for this commission. You will make those recommendations.
Thank you. I think those are all the speakers' cards for item 4. So, and I don't see any raised hands from the commissioners. So we'll now go to item 5 on the agenda, which is a presentation regarding the Brown Act, Public Records Act, and rules of procedure by the City Attorney's Office. Yvonne.
Thanks, Michelle. So getting the PowerPoint loaded here. So Michelle and I are going to be doing presentation on open meetings, public records, procedures. As you can see there, let's see if I can get this. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so basically, Brown Act, you got people at a meeting. Public records, it's electronic. It's about anything you can think of now. And with rules of procedure, these are a few things that are that you'll see later on the slides, and that's the picture on the right is from the city's commissioner handbook. So I'm going to be going over a couple of topics, and then Michelle's going to finish up on parliamentary procedure. And just for the group, this is as commissioners, you're going to be required to attend something that the council and other commissioners and a number of city staff attend called AB 1234 ethics training. It's a 2-hour training that Michelle and a few other lawyers in our office, including myself, put on. That's required every 2 years. That's been a state law for about 15, 16 years now. This is not a substitute for that. So this is more just a quick briefing for the commission because it is your first meeting, just kind of a primer on things. And I think it also isn't an effort to sort of duplicate some of the training that Michelle had provided when the commissioners had received their original training. So with that, quick primer on the Brown Act. It's been around for, I guess, almost 70 years now. And basically what it allows is the public's right to attend meetings. And as you can see here, we're in the pandemic. We're still doing meetings on Zoom. The public's able to attend, able to see, and able to comment. So we're still, complying with the Brown Act, even though it's a little more creative than perhaps back in 1953. But again, these are meetings. Legislative body, they have to be open and public. So that's where the public is joining on Zoom. So your commission, you are a legislative body, but just a little more definitionally in the Brown Act, it's got a fairly detailed definition of a legislative body, but the bottom line is city council, legislative body. City council committees are legislative body. Those are standing committees. This body, this is your first meeting, you don't have any standing committees. But if you did, those would be legislative bodies. But if you had an ad hoc committee, for example, a group that might meet for a short period of time, let's say a couple of months to look at a particular issue, and then it were to sunset, that's an ad hoc committee. It's not something that's appointed by the body. It might be the chair may ask 2 to 3 people to look into something, finish the task, come back with some kind of a recommendation. An ad hoc committee is not a legislative body for purposes of the Brown Act. So in other words, here tonight you have agendas, they have to be posted, the meeting open and public. That's not just applying to the commission, that would apply to any standing committees that you might create. But again, if you had an ad hoc committee, you would not need to treat that as a legislative body, so you would not need to sort of post agendas and allow the public to meet. But again, ad hoc would really be for a short period, not with any sort of long-term jurisdiction, and would sunset after that point. So for agendas for meetings, like you all have an agenda tonight, this is for a special meeting. Basically in about 20 words or less, your agenda needs to describe what matters you're going to be discussing, and really needs to inform the public of what's actually happening. This is an actual example, an actual clip from Apple Valley City Council meeting agenda. Walmart was looking to get a project there. There was an initiative measure that was needed to vote to approve the Walmart project, and it was Walmart initiative measure recommendation, provide direction to staff. So like over the weekend or something before the council meeting, Walmart said, we'll give the city $100,000 or $200,000 to pay for your election expenses. And if you could do that when you consider this agenda item. So they went to council on that agenda item on provide direction to staff, and they voted to take the $100,000 or $200,000 from Walmart to pay for the election expenses. That went to the Court of Appeal, and they said that's a bad agenda listing. So they would have needed to agendize it at a separate meeting. So again, you need to be careful and you need to be clear so that the public knows what you're going to be talking about at your meetings. Yeah, and Amanda will be helping chair, vice chair, and the commission with that. So that's sort of one thing having Amanda around is going to be good for. So for the commission, that's who you would look to in terms of, I'm looking to talk about this. I'd like to just have a discussion with the commission. We'd like to formulate a recommendation to the chief, the manager, the council. How can we do it, or how can we do it in a way that satisfies the Brown Act? So that's where Amanda would come in the first instance in terms of helping, guiding you through formulating your agenda items. So the next question is sort of, what is a meeting? So obviously tonight we've got a meeting. We got all 11 of you here. That's really great. So it's really not just sort of, all of you were here at a meeting. So it's just any time where a majority are around. So another example would be if after this meeting, if 6 of you wound up going to, some street corner and started talking about commission business, that's a meeting. But one thing that's a little more technical than that is you can have what's called a serial meeting. And that's why I've got a wheel here, and you can see there's a hub and there's spokes to the wheel. And so what that means is that's one example of a serial meeting. That's sort of with the hub and spoke effect, basically where one person talks to, let's say I'm not even on the commission. I talk to one commissioner, get some information, go talk to the second, say what the first one said, go talk to the third, say what the next two said. So I start adding up votes or adding up people's views on it. Once I get to, you have 11 on the commission, so your quorum is 6. Once I get to 6, I've had a meeting, even though I've talked to, let's say, 7 people over a course of even, it could be days or months. But if I've developed a view from, so let's say 6 of you at a minimum, then we've got a meeting. Another example is what's called a daisy chain, where one commissioner talks to the other, who talks to the next one, talks to the next one. And that would be a problem as well. So again, serial meetings, that can't happen. And so that's something that's prohibited under the Brown Act. Tonight, you have a special meeting. You have not, as a commission, decided when you're going to be having your regular meetings.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting
back to order. We'll go to the second bullet first. This is a special meeting. You've had public comment on specific agenda matters already. But again, the commission can only discuss specific agenda matters. For those of you that tune into regular council meetings on Monday night, you notice at the beginning of the meeting, they have public comment on matters not on the agenda. You cannot do that tonight, but once you pick your regular meeting day and time, you can allow for public comment on matters not on the agenda. So for a regular meeting, that's basically your regular time, your regular place, and you post your agenda 72 hours in advance, and that's your regular meeting. A special meeting, though, it's for special matters, special things. So again, it allows for a little less time to post the agenda, but again, the public cannot comment on matters not on the agenda. So you'll see one of the later items this evening is where the commission is going to choose when its time and place of its regular meeting is going to occur.
Folks to kind of
So that's the
look at
Brown
the
Act.
calendar, float some
This is
ideas.
the Public Records Act. So there were a number of laws in the 1950s that dealt with public records, and they finally got collected by the legislature. In 1968, Freedom of Information Act was passed a couple of years before, and so California legislature modeled the Public Records Act on the Freedom of Information Act. And again, it's allowing a right of access to the public's business, and that also got reaffirmed through statewide ballot measure in early 2000s, really reaffirming that the public has a right of access to the people's business. And so there's two kind of rights of access, and there are types of access in the Public Records Act where you can come and inspect public records, and that's kind of, you may think of a little bit more
the choices that we
sense.
have to make,
and also prompt availability to copies, and that would be, you could think of like electronic or Xerox, mimeograph kind of records. But the public has a right of access to either. The other thing is that unless the city says that you can't have the documents, there's a presumption that the documents are disclosable. There's something in the range of 30 different reasons that the city could find that documents are not disclosable, and those are called exemptions. And those are set out by statute. Not going to go through those here, but the bottom line is there are a number of exemptions, and several of them deal with law enforcement records. But basically what the effort is, where there are records that are disclosable, but agencies have an ability to exempt certain records and balances what the public might want to see, but also with individuals' right to privacy.
And Martin,
so, what is a public record? This is just a long way of parsing out the statute, but like I said, it's pretty much about anything. That's the sort of the short version of the 4 bullets here. Any writing, and sometimes people 10, 15 years ago be talking, do you really think it's an email? Because an email isn't a thing. It's not a tangible thing like a mask or something. Well, guess what? It's a writing. So it's almost anything you can think of is a record. And so if it's city record, it's public record. Is it disclosable? That's the separate question, though. So for this commission, one thing to just sort of think about, one area for the Public Records Act is you received some training from Michelle and John Nam from our office when you're getting 30 hours of training this summer on what's called the Pitchett statutes, the confidentiality of police officer personnel records. But the bottom line is there are some areas where the public can see personnel records, and the first one is instances involving officer-involved shootings, uses of force where officers cause great bodily injury, and then also sustained allegations of sexual assault or dishonesty. And so in those instances, those types of records under SB 1421, those records would be publicly disclosable. But for the officer-involved shootings and uses of force causing great bodily injury, generally speaking, that's after the district attorney has come back with findings or certain other reasons to sort of postpone disclosure. AB 748, however, that actually talks about body-worn camera video that the public can get in certain instances within 45 days after a critical incident, like an officer-involved shooting and other instances, similar instances. And so the city actually, Pasadena PD, probably about 6 months before AB 748 went into effect, had a practice of actually pushing out similar body-worn camera video well before the 45 days in terms of making that that video public. So that these two laws came into effect. They're passed by the legislature in 2018. They came into effect in January of 2019. So for the commissioners, one thing to think about is you're at a commission meeting. You're commissioners, you're also at a commission meeting. You may want to, be inclined to, send emails to your colleagues, friends, neighbors, to talk about what the commission's doing on your private email. The Supreme Court in 2017 concluded that if you're using private email, private accounts on private devices, for example, if you got a Gmail account, if you're using an iPad, if you're posting on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that kind of thing, if you're communicating about city business and you're using a private account, private device, that still might be a public record. And so basically for the commissioners, I suggest be careful on the content of what you're emailing and who you're emailing, because about city business, because that ultimately could be something that would be disclosable and something that we would need to ask the commissioners to, to search your own records to pull for us in terms of using private accounts, private devices.
Sorry about that.
So here are some examples of, and I found these on council members, but it would apply equally to commissioners. Again, some of these are actually 3 of the 4 outside of California, but it all goes towards the general essence. Top left, this is in Illinois. The basically tweets during a council meeting, the public records, because they're, it's during an agenda item while the council's deliberating on something. So the public should know what the council member is deliberating on, and if it may or may not be city business, that's not the point. The point is that if they're tweeting while something's going on, that's basically the equivalent of not giving serious treatment to the public item. So that really was treated, at least in Illinois, as city business. Bottom left, that's Ohio, Parma, Ohio, where they're questioning the city council members' texts during public meetings. On the top right, I came across this Cincinnati. They had a public records lawsuit, and the judge told the council member to not destroy text messages, and then the council member destroyed text messages. So the council member was indicted. So again, these are from other states, but it sort of just gets the general essence across. And then finally, bottom right, there were some text messages from an Anaheim council member. I'm not sure those were turned over through a public records request. They may have been leaked, but it goes towards the same point. They were during the city meeting and about city business, and they were vulgar. So I will just say that, and I think the council member has since resigned. So just bottom line, just be very careful about what you're doing in terms of creating writings about city business, because for the most part, it probably would be something that would be disclosable unless there was some reason for us to call it exempt. And for the most part, what this commission is going to be dealing in is largely going to be things that are disclosable. So the other thing is, if we aren't able to turn over everything, somebody can file a lawsuit. And if they get even sort of a trickle of records, a couple of records, as the litigation's going, they can get attorney's fees. And, for the most part, they can get whatever the judge wants to give them. It could be all, it could be some, but really it's sort of up to the judge's discretion. So what we really try, across city departments to make sure that records, if they are disclosable, are turned over and are turned over promptly, so we can avoid litigation and limit the city's liability. So that's sort of a primer on Brown Act and public records. And I think at this point, turn it over to Michelle for rules of procedure.
Thank you so much, Javon. And commissioners, earlier today, I had emailed to you a short memo, but some various sections of city resolutions and procedures with respect to parliamentary procedure, code of conduct, etc. So you got that in your email today. And I will talk briefly about some of the rules and regulations and procedures. You will have rules and regulations that you will enact as a commission pursuant to our municipal code, and your IPA, Brian Maxey, will help as you come up with those rules and regulations in the upcoming weeks, months ahead. With respect to parliamentary procedure and the conduct of your meetings, per our municipal code, all advisory bodies follow Robert's Rules of Order. And that's unless there is a local or a state law that would preempt that for some reason. And it says for the most recent edition, you can find those online. You do have the little handbook, and it's a little, has a little red cover. And it's like the ABCs of parliamentary procedure. Hopefully you won't have to get into too much of that. Last night I had to deal with substitute motions and that kind of thing sometimes. So sometimes that happens, but we just deal with it. So the goal of parliamentary procedure and Robert's rules is to get the business accomplished and provide for fairness for all involved, so that, you know, members get a chance to speak, they get a chance to have their motion heard. You don't duplicate, you don't keep bringing the same things back because they didn't get votes or whatever. So it's to keep you moving, and the chair and your legal counsel can make the rulings, or, you know, if it gets pushed comes to shove, there may have to be a vote of the body. But as a general rule, you would follow Robert's rules in terms of voting and motions and the precedence of motions, et cetera. And hopefully that won't really be an issue. With respect to standards of conduct, there is a resolution that was adopted by, then it was called the Board of Directors of the City Council back in 1982. And it's just as valid and perhaps even more so valid today when compared to, you know, like 1982, almost 40 years, I guess. And it provides for ethical conduct and personal integrity to foster public respect, confidence, and trust. So you respect each other. You don't yell, hopefully. You can make your points. You're courteous. You have cooperative relationships. You don't need to badger staff or your fellow commissioners. We're adults, and we should try to work for the overall public good and do that in a fair manner. And so that is part of what I sent you by email in the packet, that resolution. Another resolution was adopted in 1983. You know, you get the sense in the early 1980s, something must have been going on that caused them to feel the need to do this. Excuse me. But in Resolution 5048, it deals with communications policies. So the positions that are taken by the city cannot be taken by a commission, a board, unless the city council has approved that. And the commissions can't make statements to the media, again, unless the council has approved that in advance. We have a public information officer with the city who can receive and respond to media requests. The city manager's office, the city attorney's office can do that in appropriate circumstances. But just keep in mind that as an individual, you have First Amendment rights and you can say what your personal opinion is, but you're now a public official. So you have to be careful with what you say and not say that you're speaking on behalf of the city of Pasadena unless that has been approved. There are conflicts of interest laws that would apply to you. You filed what's called the FPPC Form 700 when you took office, and that's a requirement that you report your sources of income. And that's for transparency, to ensure that you are not making decisions that could personally benefit you financially. So you can't make or participate in making a decision in which you may have a specified financial interest. If that occurs, you have to make the announcement and leave the room and not participate. I don't envision situations really where that will come into play here, but you should be aware of it.
I can commit to being there at 9:30.
Because, you know, as a reminder, you're here to act in a manner that is fair and that does not appear to be an appearance of impropriety or anything close to that. When you do that, you step out of the room, but you would do that in situations such as undue bias as well. So your best friend has something coming before you as a decision maker, as opposed to just making public comment about something that you don't have to act on or give a recommendation regarding. So you'd have to think about whether that would be undue bias. And again, financial impacts. But if you don't, then your goal as a commissioner is to participate, if at all possible. So you don't just abstain because it's a difficult issue or something that you're really put there to deal with, but you just don't want to. You should be encouraged to vote. You can't be forced to vote. You can certainly abstain, but keep in mind the purpose of your appointment to the commission, and you try to fulfill that. So that's what we have in terms of our presentation. So Ricardo's gonna move our little screen. And I think we had a public comment on item number 5. So we will have that. That'll be Michael Williams.
Michael, if you can please unmute, you have 3 minutes. Michael, you're muted. Can you please unmute? You've been added to the meeting.
Star six.
Is it starting on the phone? It's *6, right?
Yeah, star 6.
*6. Michael, if you can hear us. Okay, Michael, we're going to move on.
While we wait for Michael, are there any questions from any of the commissioners?
We do have one.
One,
Abernethy.
Commissioner Abernethy, and then Commissioner Matthews. You need to unmute, Commissioner. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. Thanks for explaining in more detail related to the Brown Act. One of the questions I have, I understand the importance of the public, our deliberations and process being public, and that seems to be a very important part of the spirit behind that. Another thing as a commission, though, our ability to confer with one another, is really important. Of course, that happens sometimes in public meetings, but in other settings. I do understand that the Brown Act, it's a serial piece. It's not saying that we can't confer with one another, but like you're saying, if that happens in sequence. One of the things, so the spirit behind this can feel like it's limiting, though. It's actually limiting our ability to work together in a certain way, right? Because there'll be public conversations and then there would be private conversations. So my sense is, given the way the law is, we have that freedom, but it would also, I want to be clear that we have that encouragement. I feel the need, I think that's partly how we'll be a strong commission, by having that ability. But I want to just clarify, to me, I see that important as our role of functioning as a commission. And what are you all's thoughts about that?
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to talk freely is certainly important to function as a commission, but the Brown Act really says once you get, essentially for this body, once you get to 6, you got a problem. And I think we see this with some other commissions sometimes where they do want to dialogue, and it is a little bit more, it's easier obviously to just call somebody up and go, hey, let's go get some coffee. And I get that. But the other thing is the legislature said that's important, and so is getting the public involved so the public can see it. So that's where the tipping point is. And I think the reality is once you start seeing something that's beyond just a couple of you, and you know what, there's like 6, 4 or 5 of us, shoot, there may be a couple more that might be interested. Schedule a meeting. And if it's well for your next regular meeting, do a special. And the reality is just get the body there and get them talking and get them doing it in public. I would tell you the Brown Act was passed by the legislature in 1953. It was actually written partly by news reporter, but also partly by the General Counsel to the League of California Cities. There were a number of cities that were already doing their meetings open and public, and the only reason they passed the law is because cities were doing their meetings in secret. So they're like, y'all need to be doing it in public. So the whole point is that if there's something halfway interesting getting beyond a couple of you, just schedule a special meeting or get something happening so you can do it like this.
And again, that's for matters that are within your subject matter.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner Matthews?
Yes, good evening. The last presenters made mention about a financial form. I know we fill out a lot of forms. I don't recall filling out one of those forms. Could someone check?
We will check. My understanding is, as provided in the code, all of you, when you assumed office, filled out a Form 700, and it would have been in a packet of other things. And so it's what your source of income is, and you would have put your name, your address, and what your source of income is in a category of what may have business in the city of Pasadena or something like that.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Okay, we will make sure to follow up and get back to the commissioners in case any of you haven't.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can move on to item number 6, and we're going to have our legal counsel for the commission. They're going to come and sit over here. We have a comment on number 6. Okay, after they present. So we have Justin and Christine, and I'm going to come here so they can be closer to the screen on the camera. Yes. Oh, right up.
All right, can everybody hear me? All right, I'm assuming this, am I good? You right? Okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I was able to introduce myself earlier. My name is Justin Sanders. I'm the managing partner of Sanders Roberts, which is outside counsel to the commission. Just a little bit about myself. I've been practicing law for 21 years. Sanders Roberts was founded in 2008, so we've been in existence 13 years. Our offices are in downtown Los Angeles. And I have worked on the issues that are going to be before this commission in varying capacities over my career, most notably when I was a deputy city attorney at Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. Today, I'm here with my colleague and longtime friend, Christine Diaz Herrera, who also is a member of my firm. And why don't you tell the commission just a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to working with the commission and supporting Justin in our role as outside counsel. I am both an experienced litigator, but also an investigator. And so that experience as an investigator for over 10 years will really help me as you guys have any questions about what we can do and talking about the parameters of the information that you may want to be requesting in the future. And so I just really hope to be helpful and available to the commission as needed.
Thank you, Christine. So the purpose of our talk here this evening is really just to go through the background of the establishment of the commission and what your powers are as you go forward under the ordinances that are applicable. First, as background, as you all probably know, the City Council adopted an ordinance creating the CPOC in October 2020, and that same ordinance also created the Independent Police Auditor, or the IPA. And the duties of the CPOC can be found at the Pasadena Municipal Code, Chapter 2.60, and the IPA's duties are found at 2.30.020. So those ordinances are what establish the role of the commission, the powers and scope of the CPOC. So what powers does the ordinance give the CPOC? Well, luckily the ordinance is pretty clear and outlines exactly what the powers are. First, receive community feedback and complaints and refer them out for further review as appropriate. And we give an example there of referring a community complaint and then later requesting a report on the outcome where appropriate. Next, the CPOC will monitor and receive reports from the police department on hiring, training, and promotions within the department. And another example there, you can request a report For example, on the general process of new hires or for new hires. Continuing on, the CPOC has the power to monitor and publish statistics on police uses of force, personnel complaints, and the outcomes within the police department. To provide input on police department policy recommendations prior to adoption, and to receive reports from the IPA regarding critical incidents, police department policies, as well as other issues as appropriate. Next, the CPOC also has the power to administer oaths and issue subpoenas to produce records other than personnel records. And those subpoenas can compel the attendance and testimony of witnesses that are not city employees. And this all is for the purpose of carrying out the commission's function to the extent permitted by law. Now, what limitations are there on the powers given to the CPOC? Well, notwithstanding the right to play a role in reviewing and monitoring personnel matters, the commission has to refrain from directly or indirectly taking an active participation in personnel matters or taking personnel actions. Next, the commission also can't use records that were developed to take personnel actions and or directing that an action be taken on a police department employee. So those are the limitations. Just things to keep in mind, important considerations here. As members of the commission members are expected to comply with all applicable laws as well as the city charter. That's obviously very important. And also to preserve the confidentiality of police department personnel records and other files that you may receive as commission members. Also, the confidentiality of other sensitive information to the maximum extent permitted by law. Okay. So there also are times when you may meet in closed session or in closed meetings. And as we go through this process, you'll learn that things that are discussed in closed meetings under the law would need to stay there. Next, there are also limitations on the authority of the CPOC imposed by the PITCHA statutes, okay? And some of you may be familiar with it, but essentially the PITCHA laws are a set of state laws that control how police officer personnel records can either be discovered or disclosed or disseminated. There's been a lot of movement in the laws around PITCHA in the last few years. And so as members of the commission, there are limitations on your authority
are we using a local business?
Discover or how those records would be either discovered or disclosed. And as we go through this process, we'll be advising you on those issues. All right. So that's basics. That's the basics of the ordinances that give the power to the commission as well as some of the limitations. We look forward to working with you on those and advising you in the coming months and years.
We do have one. Commissioner Kinaga.
So are there any questions from the commissioners? And then I think we have a public comment too.
We have two. Kinaga's first.
Commissioner Kinaga?
Yes, I just have a question about, I think it's 260.110 B as in boy. The commissioner's function is to receive community feedback and complaints and refer them for further review as appropriate. So the phrase is as appropriate. How do you interpret that? Or do you have any thoughts about what that phrase means, as appropriate?
Well, that's a good question. Number one, I think what is the budget? What we're going to find is that communications might be coming to commission members from various sources, and there obviously is a structure within the department for handling community complaints.
You certainly cannot.
And it's going to be important that
which
those
I understand. So I
complaints
just think
be relayed to the appropriate personnel within the police department. for them to be handling.
Legally.
And there is a role for the commission in terms of
It just wouldn't make sense to.
reviewing and asking potentially for updates, but not necessarily in the
So it just wouldn't
investigation.
make sense to.
And I think the language, if
for the sake
appropriate,
of,
kind of gives
say
a little bit of room and understanding for how those processes are going to develop over the next few months and years.
in-house, in the city rather.
So in other words,
And there's a place over on Foothill.
so in other words, it sounds like
Anyway, we can talk about that.
there should always be
Okay, let's move on to number two.
some
That's right back to you.
action that
Martin,
the commission
and
could take.
Also wanted to ask.
In other words, it could be referral, it could be a referral to maybe more than one department, but it's not,
At that time?
I guess, as
You know that?
appropriate. In other words, it's describing, I don't, so you're not foreseeing a situation where the commission would not be able to do anything. I mean, one option would be to refer.
Commissioner Kinaga, this is Javon. I'll sit down. Thanks. You know, the idea, you definitely can refer it as a commission. I think the important thing is the commission itself, as Justin talked about, cannot sort of take any personnel action or things of that nature. So the commission can certainly, refer to wherever they need to refer it among city staff, but that doesn't guarantee sort of a certain outcome at all, but it definitely is. Provides a vehicle for the public where, I'd like to make a complaint to the police department, but I'm a little uncomfortable doing it. So if I just send it to the commission, it will make its way to Amanda, who would receive it. And then that could move its way on to the appropriate place at the police department. And that way it might be more comfortable for the public, where I'd like to just give it to the commission staff instead of walking into the police department.
Correct. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
And I think, and as a matter of example, I think there was a complaint that made its way to the commission, I think over the weekend, which I think Amanda had sent along.
Yes.
So that's sort of something like that, where that's where your staff would be able to move that along appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
If you could.
And then we have Commissioner Argento.
Yes, let's say that two or three of us get together and we're talking about an issue and we need a legal question answered. Do we need to get something from the whole, a vote of the whole commission to ask you guys for legal advice? Or is a group of two or three of us enough to invoke your services to assist that little group, a subgroup or a subcommittee, whatever it happens to be, to help them arrive at an answer to whatever their inquiry is?
So I think the best way to do it is, this is what other city commissions do, is just deal with Amanda, and just it's not like you need a majority. If it's just two or three, hey, you got a question, raise it with Amanda, because it may be something that's actually a fairly quick question, or it may be something she has easy access to. If she needs to, then she'll bring in Justin or Christine, because they are the commission's lawyers. But for the most part, I think it's probably best to just raise it with Amanda, but also don't be shy that if it's only two or three of you. I think the important thing is to raise the question, because if you go, 7 of us got together and we got a question, you don't just have a legal question, you got a legal issue at that point.
Thank you, Commissioners. Objective number 4, housing.
Does that answer your question? Okay. So now we're going to go to Brian Maxey. We'll do the comment after, because 6 is, he's still part of 6. The public comment will come after Brian's. Okay. This is better.
Okay. We heard you, Michael. You said no updates, correct?
Good evening again, Commissioners. Good to see you all. I just wanted to give you a brief update on some of the activities that I've been up to, and also just for the public presentation part of this, give a quick summary of what my roles and responsibilities are as the independent police auditor in Pasadena.
I don't have any.
As mentioned previously, the municipal code dictates what my authority is and what tasks are expected of me. And really, I look at as my role as having two major parts.
Number 6.
One is as independent auditor. And as independent auditor, I am tasked with reviewing categorical uses of force across the board. And I am also tasked with reviewing investigation of personnel complaints of biased policing. On the first one, I have talked with the police department. I have gotten my fingerprints taken. Background check is in process and direct access to the systems, both for the video, for the police reports, and for how the chain of command dealt with any use of force is all being provided to me. So I anticipate that in the next few weeks, I'll be able to really start reviewing use of force cases and attempting to do that holistic review of them that we talked about during our training, where it's not just, was the force appropriate or inappropriate, good, bad, but really what lessons can be learned from each use of force, what is underlying them, and what potential improvements can come out of that review. What's really important about that type of analysis is that another one of my obligations is to recommend changes to policies, procedures, or training. It's really impractical for me to sit down, review the entire policy manual, and start issuing recommendations as to what the police department should do. Instead, what I'm going to do in my independent capacity is work backwards from the use of force case. As I read them, as I see issues, as I see opportunities for improvement,
my camera did not.
That will turn into reporting out on recommendations to policies, procedures, and training informed by what we're seeing in the real world activity of the officers.
Ali is my witness.
I suspect along the way, I will also be giving regular reports out to you at commission meetings about what I'm finding, what really should be drawn to your attention for your consideration.
That was an excellent.
With the bias-based complaints, I've also talked with the police department. Access to internal affairs files, at least as far as intake and classification. There are those cases that are identified as bias-based complaints, but I've actually asked to do a more standard review and look at not just the ones that the department has self-identified as involving potential bias or allegations of bias, but to review all complaints that are coming in to see whether bias is a subset, whether it's, perhaps not directly articulated, but it's hovering in the background, or if there's an implicit suggestion of bias. And I just want to take a good look at that and see how the department is handling those allegations. What I've been told is since 2021, the department has received 42 complaints and has had 19 categorical uses of force. What I'm trying to do right now is to review the first 6 months of 2021 and issue an initial report on that by end of year. And then in early 2022, take the next 6 months, the last half of 2021, and any additional complaints and categorical uses of force that have surfaced since then. The second part, so that's my auditing role. Those are the categories that I'm doing. I've gotten the access to the files and beginning to do that review. So stay tuned. I'll be reporting back out to you on those and my findings and recommendations. The second piece of what I'm supposed to do is serve as a best practices advisor to you. And in my mind, what that really means is I can be a best practices advisor to you. What are the other departments in the country doing? If there is an issue or something that you wish to explore and want to know more about, I can do some research on it. I can dig up what's happening elsewhere in the country. I can advise on police practice. And if I don't know the answer, I can certainly find it out from others to get you the information that you need to make informed decisions on the topics that you choose to grapple with. I am assuming that this body you will have priorities. And I will caution you in my role as advisor not to try to do everything at once. Once you have an organizational structure, once you have a chair and a vice chair, and you now have staff working with you, Amanda, to support you, is to pick your priorities and assign those topics to me in the priorities that you develop to help flesh them out, provide information to you. You can bounce questions off of me and I can serve in that role. What I don't think I'm here to do is to tell you who you are and what your priorities are. I will certainly be bringing you my priorities and things I think you should consider. I do expect that this is a two-way street and I want to be responsive to the agenda that you develop. I think that's it. And again, appreciate being here tonight and happy to answer any questions.
So are there any questions for Mr. Maxey from the commission? And I understand there's at least one public comment on this item number 6.
Sure.
Hiram,
Hello, Hiram.
Amir?
You can hear, please unmute.
Yeah, can you hear?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes. Please commence.
Yep. So, again, I just want specifically out of all the people who are here listening to this, I want my male city attorney Michelle and
Vice Chair James,
Gordo
we could do
to know that the 3 of you
is if you
are
could,
not invisible.
get the
Your fingerprints are all over everything that y'all said today. This whole orientation thing y'all went through today.
Saying, and I think it would probably
we see
fall under
you cannot absolve yourself from the problem until the problem is solved. You cannot wash the blood from your hands until the bloodshed stops. That's common sense. That's logic. You have a leak in your house. Ignoring it won't stop it. Fixing the leak will, won't it? So that's all we're saying. I want you to know one thing, though. There is no will stronger than the will of the people. And any effort, any smoke screen, such as this puppet body that y'all are putting together with their limited powers, their limited role, aka no role at all, will not stop us.
You're in the right
be
church.
here every Monday, every day, everything we have to do to get justice for who? Anthony McClain. And anybody who gets in our way is going to be put to the curb. Simple as that. If you don't believe that, ask your little friend Jackie Lacey how that went. Didn't work out well. So to the commissioners, I want you to know this. You cannot pick good fruit from a poisoned tree. The whole system is rotten from the top down, inside out, left to right. So, oppression is always in policy. As I told you before, murder is always in policy. And anything you could do, any system you could create, any city body, which is really what this is, from the looks of it, that you create is always going to try to hide.
So you have 1 minute left.
Cool. It's always going to try to hide those in power. Like I said, we see you clearly and you ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. You ain't hiding. You're not a snail, bro. I know you think you are, but how slow you moving and just the inaction that you're having, the fact you still haven't fired those officers. Y'all want us to have a relationship with cops, but you don't want to fire the cops who killed Anthony McClain. Where is the sense in that? We don't negotiate with our killers. We don't sit down and have tea and crumpets with motherfuckers who in 1 minute will kill you and get away with it. And when there's so many young black men and women who aren't so young no more because they've rotted away in jail over the Pasadena Police Department and the charges that they put on people due to the environment that this city and the city council all throughout these years and government bodies such as this has created. We ain't playing. So this is going to end. We're going to get justice for who?
So your time
Anthony
is
McClain.
expired.
Fire those officers, Mamel, city attorney, Perez, all y'all got to go. It's on the crack.
Thank you so much. I think that's it for the public comment. I would note that there is a Q&A tab, but we don't have access to all of those comments. So I think we'll be able to look at them after the meeting and we can see what those are. The way to communicate is either through the raising of hands or for the public submission of the speaker's cards, which I don't think we have any others for this meeting now. So the next item is number 7, which is selection.
Michelle, I do have a question. I'm sorry. I did raise my hand prior to public comment. Hopefully I can still ask my question.
Yes.
Great. And so this question is directed towards Brian Maxey in terms of how he just laid out his vision for how we will be working together. If you can give us some insight about how you perceive or how you understand your role as IPA when it comes to officer-involved shootings.
So I review all categorical uses of force. An officer-involved shooting is a categorical use of force. However, it's also my understanding that other people have been asked to more deeply investigate, certainly the McLean officer-involved shooting. And I'm not sure whether that will happen in the future. But certainly as I look at things systemically and in a broad-based way, I'm not going to avoid officer-involved shootings. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think you're getting at what I'm questioning. We have in past incidents hired an independent review of our officer-involved shootings. I'm wondering if that is a practice we will still engage in when another incident happens, because it's very likely that another incident is going to happen, or if now, because we have you will be offering that independent review.
The city will continue to potentially secure services for outside investigation of the shootings. And Mr. Maxey will continue to advise the commission. Commissioner Jones?
I just wanted to clarify the review of the Q&A because there are some really good questions in there. How's that going to work?
Well, it actually should have been disabled. But what we will do is once this meeting is over, we'll be able to look at the questions and answers and address them and get that response out to the commissioners.
But those questions are not from the commission. Those questions are from the community.
Generally, they should be handled through. Generally, those questions should be handled through the public comments, which is an online portal that the public has access to. Specifically,
but because this is a special meeting, there weren't public comments for. Okay. So in that, how
we
will
still
this matter
will try
be handled?
I'm sorry.
So what we'll try to do is for those questions to be answered in a where the public comments would be posted, I guess, on the city's website or something of the sort.
We'll see how to handle that. We'll try to do something like that.
There's some really important questions in there.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to. This is the second
Commissioner
presentation, Ally, that I've heard from
she's
city
okay.
staff
Mr. Maxey answered it.
Okay, thank you.
Living with a disability.
Oh, I think you two, you can put your hands down. Any others? Oh, he's doing it. Okay.
I'm sure you've done everything you can.
All right, so now we go to the selection of the chair and the vice chair. And so the way we will do this is we will open up nominations for chair and see if we get, we'll have to get at least one. But we get one or more. And then depending on it, if there's just one, then and there's nobody else interested or nominated, then it could be, a unanimous decision, and it would be by acclamation. If there's more than one, then we would have discussion by the commissioners, and then there would be a vote, and Ms. Reese would help us by tallying the votes. And she would call each commissioner's name alphabetically and say who that commissioner would announce who they're voting for. And then we would, if we get 6 votes, then that person would be selected or elected as the chair. And then we would go and repeat the procedure for the vice chair. So I would yes, question.
I'm so sorry. Just a quick question. In other committees, there's which was started this year, there was chairman, vice chairman, and parliamentarian.
Well, the code for the CPOC says you will elect a chair and a vice chair.
Table that question?
So that's what we'll do. If you think there should be a parliamentarian, as you work through your rules and regulations,
And then we'll come right back to
That's
you
something that would go to the council.
and you can ask that
And then if the
question as
council
well as the
agrees,
other
then that's
commissioners or questions
what
they
could
might have.
happen.
And I can add a little bit to that. I think one thing with the commissions that have a parliamentary, and those are Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department commissions. One thing that they don't have is the luxury of a lawyer at all their meetings. And so you will have a lawyer at your meetings. So I think Michelle's point is well taken. I think you do a chair and a vice chair, and you'll have a staff person and you'll have a lawyer at your meetings. So I think you'll be able to sort things out. So that was something that Parks believed was would help their commissions, and I think that is a good idea for those commissions. But I think for this commission, given how the council has supported it, I think you're well served with at least a chair and a vice chair out of the gate, like Michelle said.
Thank you. So any questions or comments on the process that I tried to outline? I'm a lawyer. I get legal advice. I don't do this other kind of stuff. So bear with me. But so I would announce now that the nominations are open for chair. You can do the raise hand feature if you'd like to nominate someone, or wave your hand if it's too hard to find.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Number 7, reports.
I see Commissioner, okay, Mr. Commissioner Matthews?
To share or add.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Phillip.
So we'll move to number 8, comments from commissioners, and we are just now at the 2-hour mark.
Commissioner Annang?
35 after 5.
I'd like to nominate
So we just kind of want to
Commissioner
be
Raul.
mindful of the time and staff time.
Raul Ibanez.
Budget and be economical with our comments if at all possible. But I'll open it up to comments.
Are there any others? I don't see any indication of a hand raise. Can you put Commissioner Annang?
Commissioner Argento.
Yes. Can I be heard for a minute?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I very much appreciate the nomination. My own feeling is that we should have somebody younger. More energy. And my own gut feeling about it is that the person who is the chair should be one of the community members. I think it's important to have a person who recognized as connected to the community in terms of the issues that created the community, that created the commission. So at least that's just to share my thinking with you. And as I say, I very much appreciate the nomination. But I do think my own view is that someone who is a community member should be leading the commission. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So
that's like a Sherman-esque speech, I guess, where I say, if elected, I won't serve. I don't want to say that. If you really, if you insist, I'll do it. But I wanted to share my views with you.
So are you withdrawing your name from consideration?
Yes, if I can do that, that's what I'm doing. But I want to thank Commissioner Matthews for the nomination.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Abernethy?
In the spirit of Commissioner Argento's recommendation, I want to nominate Commissioner Serrano.
Commissioner Serrano. Okay. I don't see any other indication of speaking or hands.
Anyone else have comments?
There being none, it appears that we will we'll close the nominations, and we have 2
openness to
names that have been nominated for chair: Raul Ibanez and Juliana Serrano.
And Martin, I appreciate.
Do you want to have discussion, or do you just want to vote?
Where you are geographically. But
your choice if any of you want to say something, or we can just vote. Or have you vote. I won't.
Aren't appropriate in that, right?
Yes, Commissioner Serrano.
I would also like to withdraw my name for the chairperson position, only because my current demands with my new job are significant, and I would want to do this the honor and respect that it deserves. So I would respectfully withdraw my name for chair.
Okay. With that withdrawal, I see there was another hand raised that I didn't see before. Commissioner Lurvey?
Then with Commissioner Serrano's withdrawal, I would like to nominate as well Commissioner Annang, Florence Annang.
Commissioner Annang, okay. All right, so now we have Commissioners Raul Ibanez and Florence Annang. Commissioner Kinaga.
I would like to nominate.
Thank you. So we'll close
Ms.
out unless
Abernethy.
any other commissioner has a question,
Okay.
comment, or something. We'll close that out and move to staff comments.
Okay, so now I see there are 3 nominations. Are there any others?
Abernethy has her hand up.
Miss Abernethy has her hand up. Oh, this is, okay.
I appreciate the nomination, but I too, with my new responsibilities at my job, would need to respectfully decline.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have 2 nominees now for chair. I don't see, are there any other hands or any other desire to speak? So we have Raul Ibanez and Florence Annang. Any further discussion? So we will close the oh, I see a hand. Okay.
Yeah. I just have a question. It was actually raised in the Q&A chat. What are the term limits for both the chair and the vice chair? Do we set that after the nomination or before, to give an idea of the responsibility, since several have declined given other roles?
Right. So it's a 1-year term. And so every year you would select a new chair or a chair. You'd vote on your chair and vice chair. And it could be the same person or people. Or it could be different ones. I'm sorry?
There's a second needed for the nomination.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? So I'm going to turn to Tasha or Sandra.
To call the roll, and once I call your name, please vote for Commissioner Ibanez or Commissioner Annang for chair. Commissioner Abernethy?
Commissioner Ibanez.
Commissioner Argento?
A vote for Commissioner Annang.
Quick question for you, Ali. Has Pasadena Media
Commissioner Annang?
engaged to produce some sort of news announcement, something ahead of the event that we could, flyers are great.
Commissioner Annang, your vote, please.
Multimedia moves too.
Oh, Ibanez, sorry.
Commissioner Emeric-Ford?
Commissioner Ibanez.
Commissioner Ibanez?
Commissioner Annang.
Commissioner Jones?
Ibanez.
Commissioner Kinaga?
Annang.
Commissioner Lurvey?
No.
Commissioner Matthews?
Commissioner Ibanez.
Commissioner Serrano?
Commissioner Ibanez.
Commissioner Stacy? Commissioner Ibanez. As we tally the
I'm
votes.
sorry, I interrupted.
7 Ibanez. 7 votes for Commissioner Ibanez. 4 for Commissioner Annang. It is voted for Ibanez as the chair of the Cpoc. you want me to?
Congratulations, Commissioner Ibanez. No, you did that. We're gonna do it on the vice chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, Mr. Chair, would you like me to conduct the election for vice chair, or would you like to do that?
I'm gonna go ahead and let you do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. It is more than a notion. Okay, so congratulations to the new chair. And now nominations are open for the vice chair.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, folks, upcoming agenda items, as kind of per usual. If you don't know that right now, please communicate those
Mr. Chair.
to Ally, and she'll communicate that.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Annang.
And if there's any questions, pretty much have an open policy.
Commissioner
on it. If
Stacy.
it's important and it fits within the work plan, and you feel like we need to discuss it, then we'll agendize it and.
Sorry, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Matthews, please.
Okay.
But this would be the time now, if someone.
So we have
does
Commissioner
they'd like to
Annang and Commissioner Matthews. Are there any other nominations?
That being said, we'll move to agenda item number 11, which is.
It looks like
the
me,
adjournment.
yes.
And I believe we
Excuse
see
me,
a
sorry.
motion for that.
Can I, thank you, Raul. But, can I, decline? And, but can I, nominate Mr. Lurvey?
All right, folks.
Mr. Lurvey, you
Good
can
night.
nominate him. And you've withdrawn
Thank you all.
your nomination.
Yes.
Mr. Commissioner Lurvey's hand is raised.
Yeah, I'd like to, I very much appreciate the nomination, and I'd like to withdraw my name from
Okay.
consider. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So we have Commissioner Matthews. Are there any other nominations? I don't see any movement or indication of any other. Oh, Commissioner Emeric-Ford.
Yep, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Argento.
Okay. Commissioner Kinaga.
Yes, I would like to nominate Commissioner Emeric-Ford.
Okay. Thank you. So far we have Commissioner Matthews, Commissioner Argento, and Commissioner Emeric-Ford. I see two hands up. Okay. Commissioner Argento?
Let me see. I respectfully decline, but thank you again for the nomination.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Emeric-Ford?
Yep, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Serrano.
Serrano. Okay. So let's see, I don't see any hands. Is anybody? So far now we have Commissioners Matthews, Emeric-Ford, and Serrano.
Just let's see if she is interested. Nominate Commissioner Abernethy.
Okay.
Got a hand up.
Commissioner Abernethy has a hand up.
Thank you, Commissioner Argento. I respectfully decline.
Okay, so Abernethy is withdrawn. So we still have remaining Matthews, Emeric-Ford, and Serrano. That's right. Last call for comments. Nominations. Commissioner Stacy.
This is a question. Now that there are 3 people that have accepted the nomination, does the winner need to have just a majority of the votes or a majority of the commission votes?
We would need 6 votes for the vice chair. So if it's 5 and 3 and 3, then we'd have to figure out how to select between those two tied votes, but we need 6 votes.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Okay.
I have a statement.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Matthews.
Let's try to make this a little easier. I'll go ahead and withdraw my name. Then you'll have to.
Okay. All right.
But thanks for the nomination.
Right. So now we have Emeric-Ford and Serrano.
It's fine, but I had an issue.
Any other comments? Any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll close the nominations. And we have 2 commissioners who've been nominated for the vote.
I'll call the roll and please mention either Commissioner Emeric-Ford or Commissioner Serrano for Vice Chair. Commissioner Abernethy?
Commissioner Serrano.
Commissioner Argento?
Commissioner Serrano.
Commissioner Annang?
Serrano.
Commissioner Emeric-Ford?
Serrano.
Commissioner Jones?
Serrano.
Commissioner Kinaga?
Emeric-Ford.
Commissioner Lurvey?
Serrano.
Commissioner Matthews?
Commissioner Ford.
Commissioner Serrano?
Commissioner Emeric-Ford.
Commissioner Stacy?
Commissioner Emeric-Ford.
Chair Ibanez?
Commissioner Serrano.
As a tally?
7 Serrano.
We have 7 in favor of Serrano, 4 and 4 for Emeric-Ford. The vice chair is Commissioner Serrano. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And you see your applause to the chair and the vice chair. I think we'll pause, and if Mr. Chair, you want to have a moment to speak as well as the vice chair, and then we will move to the final item, which is setting the time and day for your regular meeting. And I would like to, while you turn your mic on, thank our assistants here today, Sandra and Tasha and Jessica, who've done a lot to try to put this together. And they've helped us from the clerk's office because our office doesn't really do this. So, Mr. Chairman, do you have a word, or do you want to just move to the next item?
So just to re-clarify, you said we have a break right now? We have a 5-minute break before we move
No,
forward?
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, while you were turning your speaker on, your mic on, I was just acknowledging and thanking our support for this meeting today.
Okay. I just want to echo that and say thank you as well.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you again for this opportunity to serve. I will gladly support Raul in any way I possibly can in his chairpersonship of this really important commission, and I look forward to working with my colleagues.
Thank you. So we will be reaching out to the chair and the vice chair as we organize things. The next item is setting the regular meeting day and time. I do know, and I would note that during the summer, Thursday seemed to be a good day. Today, Tuesday seems to be a good day. Mondays are not good days because that's when our council meets. So I don't know if there is someone who wants to make a motion. I see Commissioner Lurvey's hand up.
Yeah, we just a suggestion that we were able to get all the commissioners here tonight, so maybe a Tuesday at this time and the regular date would make sense.
Okay, that sounds good. The other thing you have to keep in mind is which Tuesday in the month. Because some people have something first, some day of the month. So I see Commissioner Matthews and then Commissioner Stacy.
Thank you. Like most of us, we're involved in different organizations, and most of the other organizations meet on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays for me is a terrible, terrible, terrible day. Thursday is fantastic. So I would push for Thursday.
On Thursday. Commissioner Stacy?
Thursday's calling to withdraw.
My personal preference would be Wednesday. Thursdays are tough for me. And my next question is time. Will we be continuing to meet on Zoom or will we be meeting in person? Because that could be some logistical issues for going to the city hall.
For the time being, we are continuing to meet on Zoom. That's all city commissions. I don't know how long that will continue, but I think it's safe to say at least until January, perhaps longer, I'm not certain. And we will select a regular meeting place that will be somewhere on a city facility. It could be in one of the city hall meeting rooms or depending on what's available. It could be council chambers if it's at a time that's not already otherwise booked. Commissioner Abernethy and then Commissioner Jones.
Yes, Thursdays also work for Wednesdays are not good. Later in the month on Tuesday, like tonight, also can work.
Okay, Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, I just want to state for the record, I, like other commissioners, I'm sure had to move some things around for those Tuesday and Thursday meetings to work. It definitely interfered with my normal schedule. Tuesdays are not okay for me. Wednesdays are not okay for me. Thursdays are okay. If it's a matter of, I don't know, if it's a matter of Tuesdays being okay, again, it's only one a month, so that's something that I could work around if it's beneficial for the entire team. But as Commissioner Matthews said, that's not a good day for him.
Okay, and I thought I saw Commissioner Annang's hand up. Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, Wednesdays is not a good day for me because that's the same every 2 weeks is the Metro PSAC committee, and so that falls in the same time.
Okay. Commissioner Emeric.
Yeah, I was just gonna like to hear from Commissioner Ibanez or Serrano, since they have graciously volunteered to play a leadership role to ensure that we choose a date and time that would be best for them. And we appreciate you stepping forward. So I'd like to hear from you too. I'll make myself available for whatever it is that you would choose best.
Okay.
Thank you for that. For me, the better days for me are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesdays are not good.
And I would just say I have a slight preference for Thursdays. They tend to be more open no matter where they fall in the month. And Tuesdays, I do have board responsibilities on the second and sometimes third Tuesday of the month.
So it's sounding like Thursday a little bit. And I would note that the IPA, he can make anything work, but Thursdays are a little better for him as well. But he's subject to your schedule.
Did you ask about the email?
That might. So, the end of the month, like the last week of the month, early in the month. Some of you have something every second or fourth or whatever. Any preferences?
Michelle, can you remind us of the rhythm that the Public Safety Committee meets? Because it might be interesting for us to schedule ourselves either before or after their meetings.
First Monday, third.
I think it's the
First Monday, third
first Monday and the third Wednesday, I believe, has been the case. And I think the meetings on Mondays, though, that have been scheduled for 4:15 or something, they've traditionally gone off calendar just during the pandemic. But the Wednesdays do tend to go. So that would be third Wednesday of the month.
So perhaps the third Thursday or the fourth Thursday?
And let's just keep in mind the holidays approaching, right?
Yeah, so you wouldn't, you won't meet on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but you could have a special meeting. Again, it would not be a regular meeting, so you wouldn't have the full participation, but you would have opportunity for meetings even when you have to cancel due to a holiday or a holiday season even. Many of our bodies go dark the last 2 weeks of December, first week of January, and then a period of time in the summer. Commissioner Kinaga?
Well, to the extent that there may be agenda items for public safety that would have some interest to us, maybe it makes sense to do the last Thursday, because that would give a little bit of time between the third Wednesday when they meet.
So we would do like the fourth Thursday of the month. Sometimes it might be the last Thursday, sometimes it may not.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Stacy?
I'd like to suggest first Thursday. It's 2 weeks away from the third one either way. And we'd be at the beginning of the month. I'm really leery about holidays. You've got Memorial Day, you've got some of these other ones that are in the way, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Commissioner Kinaga, is your hand still up or is that a new hand raise? Kinaga? Okay.
Yeah, I think that the first Thursday makes a lot of sense for the same reason as cited by the commission.
Okay, so does someone want to make a motion that your meetings, your regular meetings would be the first Thursday of every month?
This is, yeah.
Thank you. Kinaga, okay. And Mr. Matthews, your hand was raised?
I was on second.
Oh, you second, okay. Okay. Any other discussion or questions? So we have a motion and a second for your regular meetings before first Thursday. Did we say 6 o'clock? Is that the motion? 6 p.m.? Okay. I forgot to mention the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Kinaga, that was your motion?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if there's no further discussion, I think you can have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Abernethy?
Yes.
Commissioner Annang?
Yes.
Commissioner Argento?
Yes.
Commissioner Emeric-Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Kinaga?
Yes.
Commissioner Lurvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Serrano,
Yes.
Chair Ibanez.
Yes.
Motion passes without opposition.
All right. Well, congratulations. You've had your first official meeting of the Community Police Oversight Commission. Well done. And it's almost exactly 2 hours business. Oh, okay. So your first regular meeting is next Thursday. Hopefully you're okay with that.
Is that better?
It's Veterans Day. It's a holiday.
First Thursday.
No, first, second.
Yeah.
It's the 4th, November 4th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's not the holiday. And so I would ask that you have some patience as we try to get the agenda together for next Thursday. That means it would have to go out on Monday. And this is Tuesday, so there's a little time, and we'll have to meet with the chair and the vice chair. And then at that next meeting, you can kind of put out ideas for what you think should be on future agendas and that kind of thing. Okay. Is that good? Anything else for the group? You actually had basically a 2-hour meeting. So congratulations on that. I know they won't all be like that, but it's good that you were able to get organized. So I appreciate what you are doing and your commitment. And we are here to try to help make sure that you feel like you're getting accomplished what you're seeking to accomplish. Yes, Commissioner, is your hand up?
Yep.
Emeric-Ford?
Yep. So I just had a question for the next meeting. So you mentioned meeting with the chair and vice chair. So if we had specific agenda items, would we communicate those directly to the chair and vice chair?
To Amanda Fowler?
To Amanda, perfect, thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Chair, do you want to adjourn the meeting?
Yes. Do I just say meeting adjourned?
Yes.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, well done.